Ty, Whitney, you guys do a great job here at the Greater West Dayton Incubator. I've been a part of, obviously, a lot of what you all have done, and the passion for small business is really good here. We need to attach passion with action and resources and things that we can do in order to be able to scale. So the theme today is connecting is key. Connecting is key. And we're going to talk about connecting is key. I own the business hospital. It's the only one of its kind in the world. I invented the industry roughly 7 years ago. We're two nonprofits and one for-profit. The Business Hospital Institute, it's kind of like a cancer research institute. That's where all our information comes in that we use in order to treat our patients. The business hospital is where we treat our business patients. And then Dr. Baker and Associates, the business hospital, is where we have our elective treatment. We exist in 14 countries on 5 continents. We've helped over 1,100 businesses, every sector, every class, every element we oversee. We do it by methods and metrics of health. So health is our key performance indicator, not so much additional revenue or scalability. We look at all measures of that. And so in this instance, what I'm going to talk to us about today is how to look at some very common things that we talk about regularly that we don't really quite do the way we should. And so we're all guilty of it. I don't want us to be guilty of it when we leave here today. And so for those that have something to take notes on, please do it. I will also ask that we participate and that this is dialogue. I at least have to make sure that when you leave, you left with something tangible that you can then take into your life and then actually use it. If not, then I did a poor job. Are we okay with doing that? I got everybody's agreement to do that? All right, because it's late in the evening on a Thursday. You could be anywhere, you're here, so we got to make sure that we get something from there. Our mission is to guarantee outcomes to ensure the economic health of America. That's the work I do every day. So today I'm going to guarantee some outcomes. I literally can guarantee them. If you execute them, I can guarantee that these outcomes will benefit you. And so that's what we're looking to do. So when we talk about Black Business Month, now I'm going to talk about some things that may be subjective. They may be opinionated. Just know that I don't shy away from saying what I think, what I feel, and what I know. And today won't be any different. But the way that it looks for Black-owned business is that we have to elevate to a point to where it doesn't even matter that they mention that we're Black-owned and that we become dominant in our industry and in our race is irrelevant from that standpoint. We have not gotten there yet. However, when you operate, you should operate that way. For an example, I am not a Black business owner that owns a Black business. I own the only business hospital in the world, and I have several patents to my name, and I am very important to the planet Earth. That's it. So it's not about programs. It's not about assistance. Let's be experts in what we do. So when we think about Black Business Month, how do we contribute to that as Black business owners to where we progress the agenda for everyone that comes behind us? Make good sense? If I say something you hate or you disagree with, stop me so we can discuss it and then get past it. I don't want you stuck. All right? We continue to move. Let's talk about definitions. Definitions are really important, and I'm going to spend a lot of time on some definitions. Reason why is that sometimes when we speak, we use words incorrectly, and then we get bad results, and we don't understand why we got such a bad result. Right? You walk in the bank, you ask for something, you ask for the wrong product, and then you get mad at them because they gave you what you asked for, but you didn't know what you were asking for. Is this making sense? So that means definitions are vitally important, and we got to understand them. For an example, when we say small business, can someone tell me the definition of a small business?
Less than 1,000 employees.
All right, you say less than 1,000. You say less than 100. The definition based by Small Business Administration is 500 employees or less, 50 million and under. So when people talk about having a small business, if you made 40 million a year, you'd feel like you were big business. You wouldn't, you still be small business. But how many times have we heard somebody say, well, I do business with small and medium-sized businesses. And I'm like, do you really touch medium-sized businesses? Are you really helping them? Because we think somebody making $1 million or 5 million or 10 million is medium, and it's not. Do we understand? Or has anybody ever said, I got a startup? Well, a startup has something to do with something that is disruptive. So if you've got a new business, that doesn't mean that you're a startup unless you disrupted the industry. That means you'll be talking about two different things and having two different conversations. Is that making good sense? So we're going to spend time with some definitions today. So entrepreneur, we're going to look at entrepreneur and the definition of entrepreneur. A person who organizes and operates a business or businesses taking on greater than normal financial risk in order to do so. So as you think about yourself and the business that you've created, you are an entrepreneur, but mainly because you're taking on financial risk that somebody else is not willing to take. What I find to be amazing about that, and remember, all I do is help businesses all day. So we have a scenario where someone will tell me in a patient call that they're an entrepreneur, but they want someone else to finance the whole business for them. You're in violation of the definition now, right? We're going to call Mr. Dewberry and say, give me some money. And the reality is you should be taking on that financial risk, not some other investor from the beginning if you're an entrepreneur. Is this making good sense? By definition. Now, you can do whatever you want, but by definition, you should be taking on the financial risk. We all good. One who organizes, manages, and assumes the risk of a business or an enterprise. When we talk about risk is one of the 22 metrics that we invented inside of our Business Health Index, which is the methodology that we use to treat our business patients. Risk reduction is key for all businesses. Can anybody tell me why? All right, so you're saying so you don't get sued is one thing. Anyone else? Risk reduction.
So you know your options. You know if managing your risk well, it could cost you more if you don't do something versus doing it.
Okay. What else? Helps ensure the success of the business. Essentially, you want to hedge your risk in everything you're doing in life. That's all the insurance company is doing. So when you get angry when they reject your claim, they already knew that you were going to put that claim in and they hedged it by putting a provision in order to reject it. But you're angry because you say, why do I got insurance if all you're going to do is reject it? You just don't understand the policy and the business of risk. You're just transferring some of that risk. And if you want them to cover more risk, what should you do? Do what? Get a different policy or what? Or pay more. The more money you pay, the more risk you're taking on, and they're going to be okay with that. But when we say, no, I can't afford that, okay, then guess what? We're not going to take all your risk for the little bitty amount of money you're trying to give us. Does that make sense? We know not to be mad at the insurance company if we understand how insurance works. However, it's all about risk, right? We've got Josh Knowles in here. They've got a law firm, and you understand that you're in the world of risk. They should hire an attorney to minimize risk, even with their legal documentation. Is that right? They can file their own LLC if they want, but if you file it, who has the risk? You do. But you'll hear somebody say, you don't need to hire an attorney to file that. You can do that for yourself for $99 with Frank LaRose. Yeah, but you can also take 100% of the risk as well in the event that maybe your operating agreement's not okay and you're in violation of the Articles Act of 2014, and maybe you're a sole proprietor and not a legitimate LLC. All the risk is on you. But if you gave it to them, all the risk is on them. But by definition, you are going to organize, manage, and assume risk. So if I'm going to organize my risk, I'm going to say, wait a minute, how much legal risk do I have? Oh, I'm going to shift that right over here to Knowles Davis. Why? Because I'm an entrepreneur. It's making good sense. Am I helping anybody's thinking? If not, tell me I'm not helping and I'll move faster. We good? Okay. Networking. How many people network? Ooh, that's always such a trick question. We're going to learn today if we actually networking. All right. Definition. The exchange of information or services among individuals, groups, or institutions, specifically the cultivation of productive relationships for employment or business. There's something really important in this definition. Like, where's Waldo? Who can find it? You say it's relationships. Who wants to add to that? You say productive. What else we got? Exchange information. We still swinging and missing. Souley, what you got? What's that? Cultivation? Let me help y'all out. But boy, do I love the participation. Specifically, it's for employment or business. We do a whole lot of meeting. We don't do a whole lot of business. Oh, I got to go network. And you book your calendar with all this networking and no currency is taking place. So really, you didn't network. You understand? The moment I talk to you, it's not a bad thing that I'm trying to get a check out of you. That's it. I just talked to PNC earlier like, hey, we need to talk. I need some money out of them, but they need something out of me that they don't know they need yet. And guess what we're going to do? We're going to exchange. Value can't be lopsided. We understand that. So if I talk to them about a thing, I better be willing to give a thing. And what I give them better be valuable to them. Is that making sense? If it's not valuable to them, then by definition, I didn't network. Is that making sense? We got a whole bunch of selfish people walking around here like, gimme, 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 and ain't got nothing to give. Don't be that person. You're a crappy person if you're that person. Don't be that person. All right, look yourself later and say, I was that person, not no more. I'm gonna have something to give. You understand? So from this instance, when we go to an event, the whole purpose is to cut the check. Somebody should be cutting me a check. And it's not bad to do so. Why? Because that's the purpose. We all understand that. We sure we got that? I don't want to lose anybody there because it seems to get real strange when we talk in those terms. All right, you go to church, somebody should be getting saved. You play a sport, somebody should be scoring and somebody should be winning. You understand? Like there's a purpose in your activity. There should be purpose here in this activity. And it is, my relationship means somebody's getting employed or somebody's cutting the check. That's our relationship. But we think that's superficial and then use the word with the wrong definition. Call it something else. Just don't call it that. Well, I'm going to make my own definitions. Well, you're not Webster and you shouldn't. Call it what it is and use the right definitions. We good. Okay, let's keep rolling. Connection. And connection is always really funny to me because Black people always need connection. And I've learned that by doing work in 14 countries. Other countries don't always need connection. They're like, what you gonna do? Do it and here's the money. Not Black folk. You don't know me like that. I don't feel comfortable. I don't trust them. Right? So we got to have some level of connection. And if that's the case, okay, then what's the definition? What is that? All right. A relationship in which a person, thing, or idea is linked or associated with something else. So in this instance, relationship does become important to connection. But that means that that relationship is linking you to. So when I think of one, I think of the other. Is that making sense? It turns into a package if that connection is real. Causal or logical relation or sequence. What I like about this definition is causal. There's a reason that you and I should be connected. We should be touching. We should be intertwined for the purpose of association. What is that cause? Contextual relation or association. Contextual is something that I speak of regularly because we lose context in a lot of stuff. When I talk about context, it's literally putting it in its appropriate light, hemisphere, perspective, multiple perspectives. Things cannot be done in isolation. Well, I just feel like. That's out of context. Why? Because it's only about you in that instance and your one perspective. There might be 10 other perspectives that we need to consider. That would be context. Relationship in fact. What that simply means is that it exists by proximity and you can't take that thing away. That means that there's a connection there. A relation of personal intimacy, as in family ties. A lot of times when we think about business, we actually think about connection. And when we're networking, we're trying to do this. We're trying to connect. But if you notice and understand, none of this has anything to do with making money. You understand? It is not directly correlated. Same with social media, same with a number of things and ways that we behave today that we think are business activities and business functions, they are not. So you should know what you're doing. So in an event that you go somewhere, you say, I'm going over here to connect. Well, now you know you ain't got to make any money. But if you say I'm going there to network, then what should happen? I should be making some money. And if I come out of there and there's no money to be made, I just failed by definition. You understand? But this way, you're not lying to yourself. You're not drunk now when you're doing business-like activities as an entrepreneur who does what? Manages and organizes and assumes all risk. Well, what happens with risk? If I go somewhere as opposed to being in the office, that's an opportunity cost. Any economic 101 people in here know what an opportunity cost is, right? You choose a thing instead of another thing, you weigh those two costs out. And a lot of times we elect to do a thing that's not a money-making, revenue-generating activity in the sake of connection. Is that making sense? And then we lie to ourselves and believe that connection will bring us money. Hey, support my business. Anybody ever said that? Don't ask nobody to support your business. You don't support McDonald's, do you? You just go there and buy the burgers because they're on every corner and they got a $1 menu, right? And it'll shut the kids up and it's quick and you ain't got to cook, right? It's that stuff. You're buying it because of value. You're not buying it because you're supporting Ray Kroc. Is that making good sense? So we don't build businesses on support. You don't. You build businesses with value propositions, sales, and strategies that can be duplicated time and time again within a certain amount of certainty. Is it making sense? Am I losing anybody? If I lose you anything, y'all please shut me up and I will park it. We good.
Partially have to do with convenience. A lot of people, like you said, buy McDonald's because it's convenient. So most businesses that make money are convenient to others. Like say that you don't know how to make a business plan and a person does, you will pay them to do it. Right?
Maybe. So you just blended two things, but that's really good thought. Convenience in one instance has to do with a value proposition. So if I defer something to someone else, because let's say I'm bad at doing a thing, I'm not a great handy person. So it would behoove me to hire a handy person to take care of something that'll take me 6 hours and I go set 3 appointments because that'll make me 20 grand. As opposed to turning that wrench and ruining it and I still got to pay somebody to do it. Make good sense. That could be out of convenience. However, it could also be a scenario where you're delegating, which we're going to talk about later, but delegation is also very important in understanding your operation as an entrepreneur. So remember that we talked about delegation and we'll come back to that. Affordability? Affordability is real and false simultaneously. Anybody understand why I'm saying that and why I'm speaking out of both sides of my mouth?
Affordable to some people, but not affordable.
That's one. What else?
$75 on a rate, it takes you 3 hours to do something that somebody could have done for $15.
You just wasted money. That's another way. What were you going to say?
Get what they will afford, but they want. Even if someone wants new Nikes, they really can't, or they will find and to get those Nikes.
I'm from Detroit originally. I've seen people not pay rent and not pay their energy bill to go do something weird. Grew up with that forever. So affordability is subjective, but it can also be a very real thing. Something can legitimately be out of your budget. Like Monopoly money doesn't cash. So therefore, if you don't have it, you don't have it. Right? So it's on both sides of that. But good thinking and participation. Anyone else? Teamwork and entrepreneurship, which is always funny because most times that I hear it based on experience, and it's a lot of it, is entrepreneurship see themselves as one. They see themselves as an individually wrapped singular unit. And that is a fragmented way of looking at entrepreneurship. It's actually broken and, dare I say, wrong. You will be a very poor entrepreneur in the event that you view yourself that way. And if you say, well, that's my opinion, and you just have a bad opinion, be mad at you, not me. So in that instance, we typically do that. We don't see it as teamwork. We wearing all the hats like a badge. You know how much stuff I got to do? Well, you probably shouldn't do all those things. Let's find a way to not do the things that you're garbage at and only do the things that you're amazing at. Is that making sense so far? So when we talk about teamwork, acronym of team, anybody know this second grade acronym? Together, yep, Miss Robinson taught me that way back in the 80s. Never forgot it, right? It was together, everybody achieves more. So let's say that Miss Robinson and all her infinite wisdom is correct, right? Let's say she is. We would then have to say, if this is real, am I behaving in a way that allows me to achieve more with a team, or am I trying to do things on my own? Anyone know the Chinese proverb regarding teamwork?
If want to go fans, go buy this stuff with money and buy everything.
That's right. Yep, that's it. Way to roll. Like that. I had a couple bucks on me. I'd be giving it to you for that. It was pretty good. So the reality is that team pushes you further. But we'll look at why that's the case. So obviously we have another definition. A group of people with a full set of complementary skills required to complete a task, job, or project. Most important word here. Actually, it's two of them. I'm going to give you a pass. 2 words. More important than anything else in this sentence. Who can pick them out? So complementary is one. You say people. Who else? You said group. Couple people said group. Anything else? Projects. You said complete. I'll give that to you. It's full and complete. So in this meaning, and maybe you've done this, but I know for a fact more have than not, this is my team, but y'all do the same stuff. Well, that's an incomplete team because somebody doesn't do another thing you don't do. Is that making sense? We both can't be shooting the ball out here. Somebody's got to dribble it, the other one's got to shoot it, and somebody's got to defend it, and somebody's got to rebound it. Is that making good sense to you? But if you got a team full of shooters, we got a problem on our hands. Therefore, you don't have a team. It's not complementary. But I've known them my whole life. I trust them. So what? Who cares? Go get the person you can pay to do a job because they're an expert at it, and they're going to do it just because of the money or the reputation. The trust doesn't even matter at that point. Is this making sense? But you got to build your team out to understand that with complementary skills, and it's got to be complete. It has to be full. And sometimes, in this part, everyone suffers from that. Sometimes we just don't know what the complete team looks like. We just don't know what we need. We ever felt that before? We have no idea what we should be asking for. And that is not a detriment. That is actually standard. That is par for the course for you not to know everything you got to have. However, we try to cover that up as if that's a negative, and that's a lie. You should say, man, I'm not sure exactly how to build this thing for where I'm trying to go, because you're trying to go to a place you haven't been. Does that make good sense? Because if you've been there, you'd already had the team for it. Is that making sense? So observations. Characteristics of a team. Operate with a high degree of interdependence. Can somebody tell me interdependence? Tell me the definition of that or what they believe interdependence is. Okay, so depending on each other as a team, let's go one more step further. So being accountable to yourself as a part of that team. One more thing. Hold each other accountable. It's another part of it that's detrimental. But good guess, though.
Is it being independent within the team?
Interdependent. Oh, who said it? Who's saying? Who talking? That's a fact. The failure is spread throughout. That's what interdependence is you're in such lockstep that it's not okay for me to fail because my failure ultimately means your failure. And so as you build your team out, you have to build it in those ways. And that gets very hard when you're a single member LLC, because you're like, it's just me right now. And who else is going to care more about what I got than me? Right? So that means change your verbiage, change your positioning, change your value propositions. But you got to operate with a high degree of interdependence. Share authority and responsible for self-management is what you all were talking about. But you got to share in that authority. Are accountable for the collective performance, some of the things we just talked about. Work toward a common goal and shared rewards. This part, I submit to you, is missing in almost every conversation that I've ever had or every patient encounter that I have. By the time you actually have a private conversation or a sobering moment, you find out everybody's goals are different. I mean, heck, we found out a team member on our team had some hanky-panky up his sleeve, and he didn't even know he leaked the hanky-panky. So I didn't even let him know that I knew he leaked the hanky-panky. So I'm walking around with information that he don't know I got. And so we manage him a little differently. But why is that? Because his goals are different than the company's goals. Now, it's okay to have different goals, but they got to be articulated so that they can match into the shared goals and the shared rewards. Is that making sense? But we have scenarios where it's about what I want and that's just it. Well, that means you're not a team player. They don't even know how to support you in that instance. I'm gonna have a conversation with Ty here as if y'all aren't here. So we hooping the other day. And a guy named DJ is guarding in the front, and I tell him screen come, scoot up. He tells me, no, I got my guy. So we argue for 10 minutes, and I take the ball and I throw it out of fake rage because I want to get this point across. Because you told me no, I don't know how to participate now. You have a point of your own, but I'm behind you. I'm your teammate. I can see something you can't, but you told me no. So how am I supposed to behave if you told me no? We don't have a shared goal at that point. I'm back to y'all now. I'm done talking to Ty. Does that make good sense? Is that when you have a team, your communication has to be always around that common goal. And we're going to look in detail more about what that looks like. A team becomes more than just a collection of people when a strong sense of mutual commitment, we need to talk about commitment, creates synergy, thus generating performance greater than the sum of the performance of its individual members. This is going back to Miss Robinson and her infinite wisdom saying together everybody achieves more. Why? Because if we do this thing right, we ain't just a bunch of folk doing stuff, junk, and things. We can go accomplish some things way greater than I'd be able to do on my own. Is this making good sense? Mm-hmm.
Same word earlier, as a surgeon said, you want somebody that pretty much specializes in certain areas, right? So then you get that like that, like, well, don't nobody know how to do this. I'm not in person that know how to do this. If y'all don't need me, y'all need me, which I don't do. Y'all know how to do this. So then I ain't there with that.
So you've got an issue there a couple ways. There's actual insurance for individuals with that. They call that key member because they've got a certain skill set that's hard to replace. However, if you're the entrepreneur, you got to manage that risk because if that person pulls a hamstring, your company suffers. And that's problematic. That means the whole thing shuts down. So you have to hedge that appropriately. So there's a strategy that has to be implemented to say, you know what? We recognize, Michael Jordan, that you score all the points. We get this. However, what if you can't go? Are we going to get points anywhere else? Or do we need to change completely and pivot? And what are our warning signs for that? Why? Because we got a shared goal that we have to do, and we all need to share in these rewards, or we're all going to share into the negative aspects of that. But that's a full-blown sit-down strategy. Bring someone in, help us see the things we don't see and don't understand so you can prepare for that. Quick random stat, 67% of businesses don't make it past 4 years. Round that up, that's 70%. So pretty much everybody fails. That is a legitimate stat in our country. So in this instance, if that's a reality, it behooves us to have plans on top of plans on top of plans. Is that making good sense? Because something strange is going to happen, and some things are going to be self-inflicted. Some things are going to be out of our control, a la COVID, right? Either way, you still holding the bag. So on a teamwork scenario, we got to understand, well, who are my members? Is anyone irreplaceable? And if they are, then how do we shift our business model? And can we shift it easily enough? And do we have enough resources to handle that shift? Does that make good sense? Commitment. Boy, a lot of people talk about commitment. I'm about to definition y'all hard right now. Anybody know the definition of commitment?
Doing what you said you would do, and continuing and basically.
So in that instance, it's a trick question because that's a part of it, but there's 3 versions of commitment. Commitment doesn't exist by itself. Write these down. I don't have it on the slide. One is normative commitment. Normative, Normative. Normative is out of obligation. Boss told me I had to be here, I show up. But if they told me I didn't have to be here, I ain't gonna show up. That's normative commitment. So if you ever saw a student that's just sitting in class and not doing one thing, and they're like, I'm here, ain't I? I wish you would work hard. I wish you would commit to this. They're like, I'm here. And that person would be right by definition. And you're wrong for telling them that they're wrong because you don't know your definitions. 2 is continuance. Continuance commitment is fear of loss. You do it because if I don't do it, I'm not going to get paid. And, my PO said I'm going back. So you're scared. My wife said if I lose this job, she's going to leave me and I'm going to be jobless and babeless. So that's fear of loss. But that is also commitment. And then you have affective, AFFECTIVE. And that's when you are internally connected to a thing. You don't know how not to do it. Most of the time when we're talking about commitment, we're actually talking about effective commitment. You want somebody to have that. The problem is you didn't articulate it appropriately enough for them to understand that that's what you required, and you're forcing them to have that requirement, and they're like, I'm just kind of normatively here. You kind of promised me a couple bucks, so I'm kind of here as long as there's a couple bucks. The moment those bucks disappears, the moment I disappeared. But I was committed while the bucks were there. Is this making any sense? That's why definitions are important. We can't just say whatever. We better know what we're saying when we're an entrepreneur. Making good sense? Can we see how what we say determines how effective we actually are when we go to execute? Because now I can determine if you actually are saying the same thing that I'm saying. And if not, we can slow this thing down. Okay, we're on the same plane. Now let's move forward. All right, the scriptures tell us how can 2 walk lest they agree. So in this instance, it's hard to get the agreement when our definitions are different. Make sense? Anything else on this before we go? How's my time? Okay, I'm doing average. Consider the ant. I love this picture. Picture's so wonderful to me because I love ants. Y'all like, you love ants? Yep. After becoming a business expert, I became an ant lover. And you're going to see why. Scriptures tell us in Proverbs 6:6, written by Solomon, considered the wisest person of all, go to the ant, O sluggard, observe its ways and be wise. So I wonder why Solomon said that. We're going to look at a couple videos to determine why Solomon said that. If I can do this appropriately, let's see what I got.
Creatures that were once living on the forest floor now need to find other ways of getting around during the flood. The busy life of a fire ant colony has to carry on regardless. By linking legs, the worker ants create a living raft, supported by the surface tension of the water. Free now to move through the forest, these vicious stingers make the most of the flood. They use it to spread to other parts of the Amazon.
So this is one of 3 videos I'm gonna show you. I thought that was remarkable that they said, man, between our stingers, the tension above, we can actually move our babies and our queen across the river by making ourselves an actual lifeboat. Well, one of them ain't gonna make it across, but all of them, they can make it across. I'm like, Solomon, you knew what you was talking about with these ants. Now in this one here, I'm gonna fast forward a little bit. Just know that eventually they're gonna make a bridge so that they all can walk across this bamboo stick and make sure that everyone makes it across. Impossible for that ant to get across by itself. But with all of them, those ants can make it across. This last video we're gonna watch in its entirety. It's only 2 minutes, so bear with me.
And teamwork has been taken to another level in Argentina. Although there appears to be plenty of food for these leaf-cutting ants, the lush fields are actually deceptive, because these leaves are naturally protected with cellulose, which ants are incapable of digesting. To combat this, the colony form a production line. Worker ants use their mandibles to cut up the leaves. Others then transport the harvest back to the colony. Where underground, more ants chew the leaves to create a thick mash. This mash is then used as a compost to cultivate a particular type of fungus that the ants can eat. They've been doing this for 50 million years, making them some of the oldest farmers on the planet.
So in this scenario, when we're talking about the ant, I thought it was remarkable that they're like, look at this big old field, look at all this money. Can't take none of it on. Why? Because we can't even digest it. But your mandibles are stronger, cutter ant, but we're the workers. We're strong enough to carry it back, but we can chew it. Isn't that our complementary full set of skills for something greater than the whole? This is how business works, everybody. Since I'm talking to a bunch of black folk, this is what the Europeans figured out before us, which is why they own everything, even when they don't like each other. Trump tried to kill Pence. That's a fact. I'm not saying that. He tried to kill him. January 6th, they had to move him into a bunker. The Proud Boys didn't get to him. They were within 15 minutes of finding him. They tried to kill him just like they did Pelosi, but instead they got her husband and ended up knocking him out and putting him in the hospital. Trump tried to kill Pence. Last night in the Republican debate, they said who would support Trump if he gets convicted. Pence raised his hand. You understand what I'm saying? They're like, there's a complementary skill there. And I need that for my 50 million year survival. It is not so much about the connection of a thing. It's about, is this business or not? And if it's business, we need to form a team that allows us to move forward in a way that fits your values, obviously. But we cannot be mistaken when we're working and saying, oh, I'm about to go to a thing, or I'm doing this myself, or I'm wearing all these hats. That is not a benefit. There is no recipe that says you will make it by doing that. Do we understand that? Anybody got anything to add to that at all? I don't want anybody lost about this. Okay. So we got some side effects here, and we're talking about connection is key. is that a lot of times we're talking about trust. As an entrepreneur, we recognize that you may not have a large budget to make W-2 employees. We're not talking about that. But your accountant is a part of your team. Do you understand that? That accountant does a skill set that you don't have. And so because you pay them to do your taxes, that's a team member. Your attorney is a team member. Your graphic arts person that's making your logo and other commercialization for you to put on your website, that's a team member. Are we understanding that? But if we don't trust the work, how can they be on the team? See, the worker ants, they got to be able to trust that that leaf cutter ant is going to cut the leaves. If not, we die. So if you're an accountant, you got to be able to do my books good enough to where the IRS isn't saying that I'm owing more than I anticipate, because that can cripple me. And my job as an entrepreneur is to manage my risk. And I'm managing my risk by not using TurboTax, but hiring you. Is this making good sense? And if you don't do it well, guess what? I transferred the risk to you when I gave you $500 and I could have did it for $75. I purchased risk protection. Is that making good sense? It hurt me a little bit, but guess what? I'd have spent $375 between Papados and some shoes, because we do that too. And then say we don't have the money. Just don't go to Papado and you can have an accountant, right? Just do one less thing. So trust is a part of it. Next is we have to empower the team. You put them on the roster, let them do the job. If they can't get the job done, you remove them and find somebody that can get the job done. However, don't be a crummy person and tell somebody you can get the job done and you can't do the job. You're trying to figure the job out while you're trying to do the job. You're a stupid person and don't do that. Reason why I can say stupid is because the definition of stupid is a person that doesn't know. They lack intelligence. It's not disrespectful. You're stupid. Don't be that person. You say you can get a job done, do the job. Right? The way that my company is built is I've got 4 expert practitioners and I've got 15 hospital wings. My hospital wings are some of the top professionals in all of our planet. I submit to you that Joe Faison is the best financial strategist this world has to offer. And after seeing 14 countries worth of work, he still proves me right 5 years later. In this instance, we have an engineering wing. Lenny Freytag out of California. Anytime I need a product engineered, we go to Freytag Engineering. We took one of our business patients to him the other day, and he says, "Doc, I can't help you on this one. This one's too complicated even for me." Thank you, Lenny Freytag. That's why I trust you. Now we got to go find someone else that can get the job done. We had a long conversation about how awesome our team is, because some of the people are literally the most brilliant people I've ever seen. And they're the first ones to say, that's out my wheelhouse. You're going to have to find a different attorney on this one, a different financial advisor on that one, because they know their lane. But you know what the serial entrepreneur says? I can do it all, and you ain't done nothing good yet. Now, when I say good, I'm talking about being an expert. I'm not talking marginal success. I'm not talking about being better than your cousin or better than what your 4th grade teacher said you would be. I'm saying, no, let's put you toe to toe in a ring with other people that say they do what you do, and they've done it better or longer than you. Can you hold your weight? You can hold your weight in that room, then let's put your expertise to the test. Challenge yourself, so therefore when someone comes to be on your team, you can trust them and you can empower them to do it. You don't have to micromanage that reality. Is that making good sense? I'm getting close, y'all. It's going to save you time. It will save you time. It will make you more efficient. It will make you better at what you do. You're actually going to learn from your team. And Sana is our chief technical writer. I won't say we argue, but I disagree with like 85% of the stuff she tells me to do, although I agree that her way is right. You like, what kind of double talking, shoe shining, jibber jabber is this? My philosophies are different than her experiences, but there's not a better technical writer literally in the land. The work that she's done and the billions of dollars that she's been able to do with bids and proposals and forward-facing documentation, I cannot argue her success, which is why I need her. So we clash by, I don't kind of want to do it that way. I kind of want to do it this way. And it's like, yeah, but if you want somebody to hear you. You got to do it this way. But I empower her to do whatever she's going to do with our writing, our forward-facing documentation. If it exists in print, she don't got to check with me on none of that. That's her role. And it saves me time because I ain't got to do it. We making sense on that? We talked about efficiency and we talked about expertise. It really behooves you to say, let me find out what I do well. The thing that I've got to save my family's life with, I'm going to do that. And if anything else that hits my business that I can't say I can save my family's life on that, I'm going to find somebody else that can do that work so I can build me a team that makes what I have better. It's making really good sense. Anybody in disagreement or stuck? I got a buddy that no matter what I say, he gets stuck. He can't deal, and it's a 2-hour conversation. You know him too. It's an every morning thing. And so in this instance, if you're stuck, please tell me because my time is limited and you guys are going to go off. So I got to make sure you take something home with you. Outside of that, it's our contact information. So if you want to email me, you can directly, or you can go to the website or call Ty or send a pigeon. I don't really care. Whatever it takes. Anything else at all before I shut up and sit down? Thanks.
The event was really great. The keynote speaker, what I took away from his speech was that networking should actually generate some funds for you. And I believe all about that because I'm about finances and I'm about getting a check and cutting the check. So if you are not networking with the purpose to make or cash in that transaction, then what are you doing it for?
Ants. If you haven't ever watched the Ant movie, please go watch the Ant movie. You cannot do it by yourself. It takes a team, a unity. And one does not equal to a team. It is stagnant. But when you have a team, you can conquer the world.
So today we had Dr. Baker speak to us, and there were a few key takeaways that really helps me get a moment to just understand how I can how I can help my own growth mindset. One of the things that I've struggled with personally was identifying myself as a small business. And so hearing that small business doesn't mean that your business is small, but it's based on the classification was something that helped me to fix my own mentality on that.